Hello everyone, my name is TurboTony19 and I'm here with...
You with Matt?
Yeah, I'm not...
I didn't put a funny joke on it this
Yeah,
time.
no, see, I completely forgot, so, I'll leave you off this week, it's been so long, so... we're
Oh.
doing Let's Talk Wrestling, I will do a funny joke next time, I completely forgot about it. Yes, it's been a long time since we did this now, apologies for that if you're a regular listener to the series. We're not actually gonna do a recap. The reason being is because it has been so long since we have actually done. We'll end up spending like an
Let's
hour
just
doing a
summarise
recap.
this. Pay-per-views. Extreme Rules better than Mania.
Yeah,
We'll leave it at that.
yeah, yeah. So we're going to talk about a few different points there today. I'm not going to put any markers in. We're just going to talk in a few things. I might put them in at a later date. But I've got a few markers there for us to talk about, and we'll kind of talk about things as they've been going along there as well. So I hope you guys enjoy
Hmm?
the time that we'll be with there today. But yeah, we may as well like do quickly just a little bit talk on what's been happening most recently, and I think that's more along the lines of with Extreme Rules have just finished there as well. I do want to make a small sort of reference into like the difference between. I know we did like a WrestleMania 29 review show, and we that was actually done the day after Mania, the day of the legendary Raw after Mania. So that was interesting there as well.
Hmm.
We're not going to go too much into it there as well because, like I said, you've watched Raw. People who've watching this would have watched Raw, I imagine. So if you don't know what's happened, you can always look up on there anyway. Um, but yeah, I mean, Extreme Rules. Yeah, it was a better event than
Mania.
WrestleMania. I think the same was last year as well, which was a bit odd. But
Hmm.
what was your general thoughts of Extreme Rules and the way that they seem to be going forward from there?
I actually genuinely enjoyed Extreme Rules more than Mania. I mean, I didn't even sit. I will admit, I didn't sit up for Extreme Rules this time because I got to about 11 o'clock and I thought, fuck this, and went to
Yeah,
bed.
yeah,
um, but I somehow managed to avoid Facebook, which is, or I've tried to manage to avoid spoilers on Facebook, which is a shock.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, even with little bits that I've picked up here and there, I was still really, I really enjoyed um, Extreme Rules. I mean, I can't think of a bad match.
yeah. Well,
Uh, I mean, Jericho and Fandango to open. Fair enough. Of course, they're going to open with something small, and
yeah,
that was probably the worst match of the night. But I genuinely can't think of a bad match. I mean, I loved the tag team match.
yeah.
For some reason, oh, bear with me. Excuse me. I lost train of thought. Yeah, tag team match, good. Dean Ambrose versus Kofi. So Dean Ambrose seems to be able to bring out the best in Kofi.
Ugh, well,
Dude, on Raw, it was actually a pretty good. Like, Kofi actually gets quite good when he gets intense.
but no, I think with Kofi
Don't
Kingston,
see
it
it.
comes down to the fact that he was a placeholder champion for Ambrose to take the title, and we're going to
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about my feelings towards the whole Cesaro bit, which kind of like he got sort of like booted out and stuff that
Mhm.
sort of thing. But yeah, you can tell he was a placeholder face that they could use, so Ambrose could take the title off him, so he didn't have to take it off Cesaro and have a heel versus heel match.
Yeah,
Um, that's all that Kofi Kingston is, and in my opinion, that's all he ever will be.
I know.
But I don't think he's going to be involved in the Shield storyline going forward. I think after a couple of weeks, you won't even see him involved with the Shield. I think that he was just a placeholder, an easy face that they could use in that
Yeah.
match for that particular reason. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a good match. But like, in my opinion, I was much more into what Dean Ambrose was going to do rather than Kofi Kingston because it
Yeah.
was his first. It wasn't his first singles, but it was like, oh, it's him going for a singles title and without the Shield and stuff, and
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. And the fact that they did come out together, but Dean Ambrose turned around and just said, "No, I got this," and the rest of the Shield actually left.
Yeah, that booked them very strong because when they won these individual matches, they didn't cheat to win their matches. They won their
Yeah.
matches fair and square according to the rules, and that's the way that they've booked the Shield since they've come in. That they don't particularly cheat at matches. They beat people
They're
legitimately.
they're a competent group with competent singles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they've been in terms of a group, they've been booked much better than the Nexus was. I know they're
Oh
two
yeah,
very different groups, but they're the two very similar groups of recent memory that kind of they're kind of sort of similar. So like,
the Edge Society.
yeah, exactly. But no, I mean I like how they're booking them, and even though they lost and they technically lost their match on Raw, I don't think a lot of the general wrestling community are going to look at that as a loss. They
Yeah.
especially after they won all the titles
Oh,
afterwards, it doesn't really matter anymore. They're still being booked as the top
yeah.
guys.
If you
But
hear crashes at all, there's like a thunderstorm literally right outside my window.
I did not know. For anyone who's new watching this, we actually do this from two different countries, so that's the reason why I've got nice weather outside my house and Matt
I'm
doesn't have it
stuck
on
in
his.
shit.
But yeah, I thought that was good. I thought that, I mean, my thoughts on Extreme Rules, yeah, whenever the Shield were on, I thought that was very interesting. I
Hmm.
thought the strap match for me was the most boring match just because I'm not a big fan of strap matches. That I can understand why some people might get into them, but I just think the whole, I mean, there was a match that they did with Hulk Hogan ages ago, which was a strap match, and it wasn't. It wasn't inspired. I think that's probably the best word. It
Yeah.
was a bit there,
I mean,
but
what was it? Prior to Sheamus and Mark Henry, I think the last strap match was JTG and Shad,
yeah,
which
which
all JTG did was hitch a ride
yeah, yeah,
the whole
exactly.
way around. It's like that's stupid.
And in the end, it didn't make them either much money, yeah, yeah, really. So, but no, I thought, like I said, it was a good event, much better than WrestleMania, I think, because Mania had a lot of lost potential. What was your thoughts actually on the cage match to finish it? Actually,
Oh, I think the cage match to fit it had to be the main event.
yeah.
There's no two ways around it. Um, you mean the actual finish of the cage match,
I
or
think the cage match in
I thought
general.
just the whole? I think the whole cage match was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought it was good. And the reason why a lot of people may think, oh, why is he thinking it's good? Because I like these matches where they genuinely tell a story throughout the match. And with the whole Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar getting his knee done thing, he sold that knee being busted pretty well throughout the
Oh
majority
yeah. I
of that
mean, I
match.
didn't. I messaged this to you whilst I was actually watching it. It's like I don't like. It's like way to make a UFC champion look weak,
Yeah,
but as a storytelling, it still goes to show. Oh, he's a pussy because he smashed his knee. Yeah, but he still finished the match and won.
yeah, and one, yeah, exactly.
So
And they seem to be going along with his storyline that Triple H has got this concussion and like that's why he's fading in and out and stuff on Raw and everything like that. But I didn't. At the end of the day, there's only so much you can do with Lesnar as he is a part-time wrestler. Next time you'll see him now is probably going to be SummerSlam. So
yeah,
there's only so much you can do with him. So yeah, you can make it that he goes through hell. He had to win the match though. The reason being, though, is that you could, yeah, I get it that Triple H will probably be on TV more, but Lesnar is still being booked as not. He's being booked not as a part timer. If you can kind of understand what I'm saying, that he's still being booked as the top guy in the
yeah,
business. You know what I mean? He's not being booked as someone that comes in and out. So yeah, he needed to win, considering that like his only other victory was Triple H at SummerSlam like the year beforehand.
yeah.
So yeah, he needed to win that, I think, more than Triple H. But it was a decent match. I thought it served its purpose. And it was far. I felt it was a better match than the one that they had at WrestleMania. Partly
Yeah,
because they did use the cage to the most of its ability, and they did. It was a physical match, and it was a sort of those matches that.
yeah, but I think cage matches allow you to add that little extra to it.
Yeah,
With the fact that you are surrounded by steel, but then also, especially with Paul Heyman, like you have Heyman as a manager, and it's just going to be gold.
yeah, and he was heavily involved in that match, wasn't
Yeah,
he? And it worked, and it was a lot of factors there. Now I don't believe that Triple H and Brock Lesnar have good chemistry in the ring or anything along those lines, but that's the end of their rivalry now. So like anyone who's hated them going against each other, don't have to deal with it anymore. They won't be going against each other, I don't think. They'll find a new rivalry for Brock to have,
Yeah,
whether it be The Rock or Undertaker or whatever they want to do with him
yeah.
in the future. But yeah, no, it served its purpose. I think one of the finishes that annoyed me. I kind of liked the finish at the end of the cage match, but the finish that annoyed me in Extreme Rules was the actual WWE title match. I thought that was a little bit.
That didn't annoy me until Raw.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was a little bit like a last man standing match, but like yeah, John Cena was laid out, but Ryback could still stand, but apparently he couldn't, or it's not, and people were getting helped out and
Yeah,
everything like this. And then like a couple of minutes afterwards, if you go like the WWE app exclusive, then you can you saw him basically getting up, and it was a little bit like. Well, John Cena just got up and then walked away. It was a little
yeah.
bit like,
But he refused treatment and he just unclipped himself from it. It's like, what the hell?
yeah, like why do they end the match that way? I get that they do it, but they have to have the follow through. And then obviously I know what you're talking about, which is on Raw, where Ryback seems completely unscathed from the
Yeah,
from the fight beforehand. He literally hops on top of the ambulance and starts cutting a promo about how he wants to kill everyone in the crowd,
yeah.
send us all to the morgue. Um, maybe murder a Ryback can catch on as a heel. I don't know, but maybe that's not PG enough. I'm not quite sure how that goes, but yeah, it was a little bit like the
I'm sure enough people have watched like Criminal Minds by now that the concept of murderer isn't
yeah,
too much.
yeah. But yeah, like you say, it was a little bit of like a little bit like a what, like you're here jumping around, you're even performing in squash matches and all
Yeah,
this lot. Like it was a little bit like that ending didn't really make sense after that or anything. I didn't like the ending because it was a little bit of a false ending. But what can you do? I guess you can't have Ryback lose another pay per view. They obviously don't want to take the belt off John Cena yet, so
yeah.
they're kind of like they're doing this a lot with Ryback. They end up pushing themselves into positions that they end up messing up the character for or anything like
It's
this.
just
Like
about. It's just if you're not, they just push and then they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're not
yeah,
getting it. Yeah, 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 no, not this
yeah,
time. Nah.
yeah. It's
Just like mockery.
I think a lot of people would disagree with me this, but I think that they should have given Ryback the strap by now. They should have given him the title,
Mm,
just because he's been in the title hub for so long, and for people that follow it closely, he hasn't had a pay per view win since the Shield have started coming in. That's a good, I think, about 6 months worth
yeah,
of pay per views. He hasn't won a single pay per view, and it kind of makes you think, why now did he lose against Mark Henry? It just they seem to book him at pay per views as if he's retarded, like he doesn't know what to do. He just loses it. Now they
yeah. I
could use
know.
this to their advantage, the fact that they could use it in promos saying you can't win the big one at pay per views, you just can't get the job done and all this lot, and then eventually
Yeah.
maybe he does, but we don't. But they haven't yet, so it makes you think, what are they kind of doing along those lines? But is there anything else that you really wanted to recap with Raw until we go on to our topics for this week?
Um,
I mean,
not
we're gonna go
considering
to
it's going to be a topic. The 6-man tag match, I loved it.
yeah, I thought it was okay. I think any six-man tag matches that they do with the Shield are good, but one thing I actually wanted to bring up along those lines is that there's only so many times that they can do the six-man tag matches, which I'm glad that they
Yeah,
did. They gave Ambrose the title because now they're obviously going to have tag team matches and single matches alongside the Shield, which is good. It'll break
yeah,
up I'm not. I use the word monotony very, very like I'm overdoing it because it's not monotonous. I do enjoy their matches. In fact, they're one of the main reasons to watch Raw at the moment. But
yeah.
eventually, seeing them in six-man tag matches is going to get old. So I'm glad that they have gone those other avenues as well. So anyway, we've got 3 topics there for you there today that we'll go into. Like I said, we did a brief recap. I didn't want to go too much into that and everything like that because there was a lot. We could literally spend about 3 hours just going through everything. But we'll try and get more frequent as we do LTW, and we'll go through that more and more length. First of all, is actually a subject that I've been talking. I actually thought about a long time. It actually goes back to the days when we were talking about Zack Ryder, which is one of our more popular episodes that we put out, and we actually spoke about the fact that Zack Ryder needed to get more serious. Now, kind of beefing up on this, it's one of those things that I'm actually going to be talking more about Sheamus now. If you see his build up to Mark Henry, it was very odd. And the way that I'll say this is the fact that he was actually technically playing the heel role, the guy who was doing all the stuff and then cheating to kind of get a cheap shot on Mark Henry and everything.
Yeah.
It seemed a bit. They wonder why Sheamus is kind of losing his following and why he doesn't get as big as pops anymore. When he's playing this goofy sort of character, and yeah, he says, "Oh, I can get serious when I want to," but he's not serious. He's serious about 5% of the time, and 95% of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of these characters will do the same. John Cena's one for doing it there. That he'll pop jokes all the time and everything like this, and yeah, occasionally he'll get serious. But does WWE need to? I'm not saying go like like out of the PG era. You could do serious without being PG era, but does it need to now start making their characters more serious, start taking things more seriously, and take their storylines in a more serious manner to even benefit the characters that are there, like the Zack Ryders, like the John Cena's. If John Cena didn't, you can still have comedy, but trying to move away from comedy a little bit. Is that something that you think of at all, or?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I can agree, and I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You mean sort of like Kane, who used to be like the big red monster,
Yeah.
who used to decimate opponents, and now, on Raw, just gone, like, oh, I feel naked without titles. Like, you're not wearing a t-shirt or pants.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Yeah.
If that's the sort of thing you mean, isn't it?
Well, I think there's a lack of storylines as well that don't have that sort of serious edge about them. I think that might go down to the booking, but I think a lot of people when they have this conversation, they talk about the fact that you can't do it in PG. You can't do it in the PG, but you can. You can have serious, impactful storylines that go within that marker. But what I'm talking about is that you get these guys that are constantly going through it. And you look at the likes of even Daniel Bryan, who can do a very good serious storyline. He's been booked as a comedy role for the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Even before he teamed up with Kane, he was doing the whole "yes, I'm the champion" and all this lot, and he was being booked more of a comedy role. But a lot of these guys, that if they put them in more sort of like serious roles, if they actually, you look at the days of the Attitude Era. And I don't like going back to the Attitude Era over and over again. But if you look at the likes of let's look at Stone Cold Steve Austin. That guy very rarely was involved in a comedy stint when he was in the bulk of his career. He was a serious guy. Everything he told, he went in there and said, "I'm going to kick your ass," and I'm going to kick his ass. And it went all around that time. I know it's a different era of wrestling now, and maybe there's a different demographic, but there isn't really many characters that go along those lines of come out, think they're the greatest, almost Chris Jericho like. They come out, they say they sing their own praises, and they actively tell everyone else, if you want to come out here, I'm going to kick your ass and I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
But there's not very much of that anymore. In fact, I think the only person that kind of says promos along those lines, but he does it in the middle of comedy as well, is Triple H. So it's a little bit that I think that maybe that they need to, for at least some of their characters, kind of move away from the comedy a little bit. Some of the comedy they do isn't exactly very good anyway, in my opinion. Anyway.
No, I will admit there's just been some points. I mean, we've touched on this before, but it's Lawler, and it's some of the jokes that you get out of him, and it's just like, it's like, would you please just be quiet?
Some of his jokes are absolutely awful. They really are. And you look at, I mean, we did an episode on this before, whether we think that maybe he should be replaced permanently by JBL. It seems now that they do have that constant three. That JBL's always there now on Raw and everything. So
yeah.
You go back, like I said, I know I've said this before, but go back and watch some of heel Jerry Lawler, and you'll see such a change in quality of his commentary.
Oh yeah.
There is no heel commentator now, actually on Raw or SmackDown. I think there's actually there needs to be a heel commentator. I have to say it now, but I kind of miss Michael Cole being the heel commentator a little bit, because at least then you had the backwards and forwards, and you had, and it seems now all the heel wrestlers that come in, unless JBL decides he's going to sing them a little bit of praise, they're just getting dogged on over and over and over and over again. It's just, it seems to be you need that guy who's going to back them up and say, well, these guys are making an impact and all this line,
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be anyone along those lines. I don't know whether they think they haven't got anyone there along those lines, but one thing I do want to bring up, the whole kind of serious edge of the conversation we're bringing up with as well, is the fact that sometimes we're talking about the commentators, what they will do sometimes is that they go towards this. I've seen Michael Cole or Jerry Lawler sometimes just really bury competition in the ring,
Oh
and they're
yeah,
trying to
completely
get
out
matches over.
someone.
Yeah, and then they're talking about the WWE app like in constant length while two guys are going at it in the ring, and it
Yeah.
seems like why did they make it?
Well, no, it's not necessarily it's WWE's fault. They're basically don't forget to push the app.
Yeah,
It's just why.
yeah,
Like surely by now everyone who watches WWE knows that WWE has an app,
yeah.
and
They've
it's
done it to
like
death.
just they've I swear it's literally just like we're not getting the numbers we had predicted, so we're gonna have to push it on them,
Yeah,
sort of thing. It's like
yeah,
we didn't hit our target for downloads, so don't forget you can only do it if you vote on our app, or you can only do this on the app. And
yeah.
oh, we're partway through a match and it's quite exciting, but don't forget, look at the side of the screen where there's app footage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
It does. It's almost like they have like a little bit too much content at this point, and they instead of making the quality of their content better, they're deciding to put it out in quantity rather than quality, which is a little now they're finding brand new ways of watching television, which don't involve actually watching Raw as it happens. You know what I mean? Which is a bit
yeah.
odd. So
It's like don't watch Raw, watch our app.
yeah,
It's like
exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit like that along those lines. It just doesn't seem, it doesn't seem right or anything along those lines. And but like I said, like go back into the topic of things as well. Is that I think that I don't know whether the writers at WWE don't think that maybe if they do too much of a serious storyline that maybe they'll lose the
I
under
don't think.
tens of their
Yeah,
demographic or
that's
something.
pretty much it. Like the
But
moment you have to think more than just good versus bad. I mean, I know it's all it narrows down to wrestling. It's always
well, that's the
David
core,
and
yeah,
Goliath, good versus evil sort of thing.
yeah,
But the moment you have to think, but why? The moment sort of why comes into the equation, it's like,
yeah.
I don't know.
You could have
Like,
two guys who
why is
legitimately
Natalia
have,
still walking around with the Great Khali?
yeah. I mean, you can have two guys who legitimately have a problem with each other and then want to solve it settling in the ring. But if you give them a reason to do it and promo time in order to hate each other, like really hate each other and want
Yeah,
to destroy
exactly.
each other,
It's partly the reason why I'm really enjoyed Triple H Lesnar and really enjoying the Shield
yeah,
because they genuinely have beef.
yeah, and whenever they go into the ring, they have that sort of that viciousness about them, which doesn't. Think of the time when Vince was pushing ruthless aggression. Do you remember that? There
Oh
doesn't seem
God,
to be
yeah,
much ruthless aggression in Raw nowadays. I think they desperately need some
yeah,
of that back. You look at the guys like I know I go on him quite a lot, but there's a lot of people, but he's just the poster boy for what I think is wrong with superstars. Kofi Kingston, that guy is happy being mid card talent for the rest of his life. That
yeah.
isn't ruthless aggression. And whenever he's in the ring, he's like, "Yeah, boom, boom." And I'm like, "What the hell is this?" Like,
I don't buy
yeah,
it.
like you know what I mean? Like, he's one of those guys that if he came out and did a serious story, like maybe someone attacked his character or constantly
Yeah,
was at him, and they did a serious
try and have a
storyline.
serious conversation,
Yeah,
serious competition with Randy Orton.
yeah,
That phased out pretty quickly.
yeah, exactly,
I
yeah,
don't even remember what it was all about. It's just I remember him taking out like attacking his car.
yeah.
That's about it.
That's the most memorable part of his career.
With
And I
his
remember some people saying that when he won the US title, I was looking at some Facebook posts up on like these on meme sites and stuff like that, and people were like, "Thank God he's getting his push." He gets a yearly push every year where he gets given a title and they don't do anything with it, and he
yeah,
doesn't do anything with it. So like that happens every year. That guy's gonna end up being one of the highest, time US champions, and he will have nothing memorable about it,
yeah.
about his reigns at all. There's nothing memorable about him being a champion at all. But yeah, that's pretty much like the bulk of that anyway. One of the other things that we want to talk about there as well is actually one of the bits that happened on Raw. We was talking a lot about Curtis Axel. I don't know what they
Yeah.
want his name. When they said his name was Curtis Axel, they still had Kurt Axel on the title. I don't know if you saw that as well. Uh,
Yes.
but yes, if you don't know him, obviously you're new to the product because he is Michael McGillicuddy. He was part of the new Nexus and all that lot, and then he's been out of the line. I know people backstage are very high on him, like Triple H is high on him. I know he worked with The Rock when The Rock was training for WrestleMania. He was the one guy who was he was
He's
wrestling with to get them.
trend.
Yeah, so like obviously he's got a lot of supporters, and it was a little bit of a shock actually that he was going to be Paul. Paul Heyman's got such a sort of a top tier clientele now that being one of his clients is going to do big things for you.
Oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on him? Do you think that he's deserving of that? Do you think that he can make the most of the chance that he's been given?
I. It's early days. I
Yeah,
have to say that, but it is. Well, he is obviously being brought in as one of Paul Heyman's clients,
yeah,
and being one of Paul Heyman's clients holds weight.
yeah,
Um, it's going back like he lists them all regularly.
mm,
Oh, I'm the one that brought in CM Punk, and he was the your best in the world. Brought in Lesnar, like the guy ran ECW,
yeah,
so it's everyone knows that he isn't someone who shies away from the business, who's
yeah,
always been sort of in the thick of it and trying to pull in talent.
yeah.
Um,
He has this knack as well, Paul Heyman. This is kind of going away from the topic a little bit, but he has this knack of when he brings wrestlers in or he manages them for an increased amount of time or something along those lines of that. When you get under his wing, the guys that go under his wing respect him almost like
yeah,
the father of their careers, and they
yeah,
will give him like the props all the way. Look at CM Punk; he wasn't actually affiliated with CM Punk for the majority of his career, but backstage he was. He was very instrumental for him to get into WWE and all these lines, and because of that, CM Punk has great respect for the guy, and obviously it translates in their promos and everything like that.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know
Even
whether this
Brock
is
Lesnar when they during the cage match was just like that's my manager sort of thing.
yeah,
I loved it. It was such a good little touch.
yeah,
But he is a brilliant manager, and we've done this before. We've done like our favorite managers, and between we both agree that Paul Heyman is one of the best of.
oh, he would be,
But getting back on the topic, he's such a capable manager that this Curtis Axel essentially has a lot of doors now open to him.
yeah, and the fact is as
And
well.
I don't want to see him stifled in mid card.
Yeah, I mean, let's say that he can Curtis, I'm not going to refer to him as Michael McKillicuddy because he isn't that anymore. Curtis Axel, he can wrestle. Everyone
Oh,
knows that. If you look back when he was tag team champion before with David Otunga, and he was the
yeah.
one who was carrying the wrestling side of that team because David Otunga can't wrestle a lick. So he was the one really going at it, so he can definitely put on a match, and he's going to learn how to put on higher quality matches as time goes on. Give him a decent finisher. I liked his entrance, the fact it was a remix of Mr. Perfect's entrance. I thought it was
Yeah.
brilliant, a really nice nod back, and
It was kind of had to be done because they were doing this whole, oh, he's the son of Mr. Perfect and the grandson of Axel, and it's just like
yeah.
it was a really good touch. It was sort of like a proper nod to the heritage.
Yeah, and I like the way as well that when they changed these characters, like when they did this with Tensai, if you remember back with Tensai, he returned. Everyone knew he was Albert, but they didn't even reference it until later on, in a couple of weeks after. So, oh, he was a former WWE superstar and all this lot.
Yeah,
At least now with the name change, they've explained it. So, like for the diehards like you and me, it's a little bit like, well, at least they didn't just change his name out of nothing. At least now he has. They
yeah.
explained why
There's
they
a
changed
reason
his
why
name.
we've done this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it makes sense, and that way people can go, "Oh, fair enough." You can get behind it. You're not going to exactly hear any Michael McGillicuddy chants or anything like that, although that would be kind of funny. But
I think still do.
yeah, but yeah, no, I'm glad that they did that, and the fact is as well, being affiliated with someone like Heyman, I don't know how far they'll take this. Obviously, while Punk's gone and Lesnar's gone, this is going to be Heyman's sole point, and with
Tables new
Heyman,
pod-
you can come into the ring. He can do all the talking for you, and he'll make you look like a big star. Like I don't know whether he has the look or the build or anything that he doesn't have the look or build of someone like Roman Reigns, but he can definitely wrestle. He's got the pedigree. He's definitely got the desire of the business. And I'm glad that they're giving this guy another shot. They're not forgetting about these guys that came in before,
Oh
like
yeah.
the Husky Harrises. That came in actually seemed pretty decent, but just didn't have the looks, and now they're starving in NXT.
Or
So
as I asked you the other day, what happened to Mason Ryan?
yeah.
Someone who had the look and the proper powerhouse thing that WWE were missing at the time.
Yeah.
and he's gone.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that we actually referenced a little bit before, that they probably didn't use him because they thought he didn't get over, but they made him use his Welsh language in promos. I'm wondering why
Yeah.
people can't understand him.
It's
Just
probably a reason why Cesaro's having troubles now. It's like, we want you to yodel. What?
yeah,
Why? Why do you want him to yodel?
that was absolutely ridiculous what they did with that guy. I couldn't believe that the treatment of Cesaro recently as well. In fact, he didn't get his shot at Mania, and literally his long run. Like I said before, his run was made for someone to come in with the whole "I'm American" sort of thing behind them. Not Jack Swagger style, of course, but someone come in, like, wave the flag around, "I'll beat him and I'm American," and then beat him for the title. Yeah, and then beat him for the title, as being one for America, and it would have been great. Instead, they just had Kofi Kingston just randomly beat him for the title. Just
Yeah.
seemed really random. I know people are saying
Why?
now,
Huh? Why
yeah,
not?
I know people are saying now, oh, obviously he was a transitional champion, but you had the Intercontinental title that changed hands at WrestleMania. The Miz could have stayed Intercontinental
And
champion
changed hands
and
the
changed hands
after.
instead. Yeah, but whatever they want to do, I guess. But going back into it anyway with Curtis Axel. Like I said, I think that the future is bright with him. For the short term, it matters how long they want to push him long term.
It's difficult. They have to. The thing is, we're going back to the fact that he's one of Paul Heyman's guys again.
Yeah,
Because Paul Heyman has that credibility and that history of bringing in good talent, they can't fuck him up.
they can fuck him up.
Well, they can,
Yeah,
but then that ruins the
Paul
strength of
Heyman.
the
Yeah,
name Paul Heyman.
yeah. No, I get it. No, they could mess it up, and I can see them messing it up, but they need to book him strong for
Yeah,
a while. And I was very glad that he was involved in the Triple H storyline. I think it would have been much better that he actually got the pinfall over Triple H, especially as he had a concussion. I think it would have made more sense. Like the fact that he didn't get the pinfall victory. They could have sold that for the next 2 months. There isn't many who has a pinfall victory over Triple H, but Curtis Axel did it on his first night back. They could have
yeah.
sold that, and the fact that he had a
I
concussion.
did like on like Heyman. You got a 2 count on Triple H.
Yeah,
Like, don't forget that. And it's just like good managing.
yeah. But you know what I mean. Like they could have,
Yeah,
they should have let him go over, especially if they're
shouldn't
going
have
on with the story.
strength in it.
Yeah, I mean, what I would have liked him to have done. Obviously, he doesn't have a concussion, guys. Before you thinking, oh, that end of Raw was scripted. They should have had maybe Paul Heyman, maybe Curtis Axel didn't know what to do, and Paul Heyman telling him, keep going at him, attack him, get him in the ring, pin him, and then
Yeah,
it gets that sort of viciousness that Paul Heyman's
it
known
get yeah,
for.
it gets a mean streak in him.
Yeah, and then Curtis Axel gets his victory, and then they can sing his praises for the next few weeks that he's got a pinfall victory over the 10-time world heavyweight
Yeah.
champion and all this lot. So yeah, they could have done that. They
His
just
first night back on Raw in 3 years, and he
yeah,
gets beat.
yeah,
Okay, Curtis Axel. It's just
yeah.
like, yeah, it puts strength in the gimmick.
Yeah, but they obviously didn't decide to go that way. Maybe they wanted a more impactful sort of like, is he sort of hurt sort of ending to the thing. But
Yeah, but that's more.
that,
Let's give a fuck about Curtis Axel. Triple H.
isn't it? Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's more about Triple H than it is about Curtis Axel, which is the problem if you're bringing this new guy back into into the fray. But as you said, it's going to be interesting to see how they book him because he doesn't have the build or the on-mic ability of CM Punk or Brock Lesnar. It's interesting to see how long they're going to keep up him
Yeah,
being there. But you know, um, I hope he goes well. The guy can obviously go. He can wrestle very well, and he's worked some big size. He's got some big supporters behind him, and who knows? Maybe when these guys that he's been helping back, like maybe The Rock comes back, maybe he can get have some time on there with The Rock, which is always good for whoever you are.
yeah.
So maybe one of these things can go back for him. We're interested to see. He's one of the interested in the things to see overall in the next couple of weeks, just to see how he's booked and
Yeah.
see how they go from there. But one of the things, the last thing that we're moving on to here anyway is actually an incident involving
Jumping
TNA.
ship.
Yeah, TNA is something that I don't watch often. It's not actually because I wouldn't like to watch the product. I wouldn't mind watching it. It's because in Ireland it's extremely hard to actually find it in Ireland. Reason being is that anywhere in the UK it's on Challenge TV. Challenge TV doesn't exist in Ireland. So yeah, it's quite hard to find TNA over here. But I saw this as a big blowing up thing along the the IWC. about talking about this incident that happened. So I checked it out on YouTube. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's essentially Austin Aries. Austin Aries comes out to the ring with his tag team partner. And I can't remember who the tag team partner is.
Bobby Roode.
Bobby Roode, yeah, Bobby Roode, yeah. And Christy Hemme announces them as the wrong names. I think he announces them as Christopher Daniels and his tag team partner. Um, it's a mistake. Whatever, I mean, I know that maybe she's got like a history of making mistakes. I don't actually remember her as making
I
a lot of mistakes.
don't
People
remember
say,
Christy Hemme to be
yeah,
full of mistakes.
yeah. But essentially, it came out. He doing the normal heel thing at this point is having a go at her. Fair enough, I get that. You're
Yeah,
on air, you're having a
get
heel.
up in her face, tell her to.
Yeah,
I agreed with it all. Like, do it again, say it right.
that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
That's acceptable heel.
Yeah, but then he climbs up on the Titantron and essentially shoves his dick in her face. And climbs up on the middle rope and shoves his dick in her face. And she, obviously, by the looks of it, and obviously what we've learned afterwards, that part wasn't scripted, and she was very uncomfortable with it. That is unacceptable, and a lot of people have been backing up, saying, "Oh my god, I can't believe this has become a big thing. Heels can't do anything nowadays." No, they can do a lot of stuff, and if they're invented, they can. But you just don't do that. That's borderline sexual harassment.
Well, it's not necessarily a heel thing. It's an ego. Like I said it to you. It's a serious case of bad ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she didn't announce you with the right name, but be professional about it. Pick up and move on, sort of thing.
Yeah, like it's a sort of along the lines of like what he did first of all was golden, perfect. As a heel, you would be angry that you
that
did
you've
that.
not been given the right name.
But there is a limit to even what heels can do, no matter what demographic you're going for. Like if Christy Hemme had agreed to it beforehand and said, "Yeah, this will get some heat. People will be interested, and we could do this angle about, you mistreating me along these lines." That's fine, but apparently it isn't. So, he did it unscripted and basically did that. A lot of people have been saying, Christy Hemme has this history of going through a lot of guys backstage. This is what I've been hearing from a lot of the comments and anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she's the biggest slutty McSlut in the whole of TNA and the whole of WWE or whatever. What happens behind closed doors and what happens on public television are two completely different things. You've got private and public. The fact is that he did that in public. He basically put in an extremely uncomfortable position in public television. And that is wrong. What he did first of all was fine. He should have left it at there. Or if you wanted to go more, maybe, while you're talking to her, say, "Can I do something along these lines?" or "Can I pretend to shove you?" or something like that. And if she goes, "Yeah, fair enough," wrestlers talk to each other inside the ring all the time, so you can do that. But that was completely out of context, and TNA haven't made much of it recently. There was a few tweets that went out, I think by like Dixie Carter, who said it was unacceptable and it'll get dealt with. But there hasn't actually been much after that, and I think the reason being is because TNA like to think of themselves as a higher company, that they do things right. But Austin Aries is one of their big stars. They're not going to fire him, just the same way that WWE won't fire John Cena. I'm not saying that they're on the same level at all, but in terms of popularity and how much money they are worth. But TNA are just the same. They're not going to make a big deal of this because they don't want to fire anyone. They don't want to
especially don't want to ridicule one of their larger stars,
exactly.
As you said.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Austin Aries went on Twitter and he said along these lines of, "Oh, it's funny how some people say they don't have a problem backstage and they moan on Twitter." Of course, she's not going to say that she doesn't have a problem with you backstage when you're in her face or along these lines. She doesn't want that confrontation. I wouldn't. At the end of the day, she's probably been put in a very awkward situation. Probably didn't know how to digest it as it happened, and then she's still got the rest of the show to do. It's still.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I didn't like it. I thought it was a little bit over the top. Maybe there will be a side effect that maybe he goes too safe in the future along those lines. But you've got to remember that any of these storylines that happened before in the Attitude Era with involving women, and there's a lot of very raunchy storylines going along, they either agreed to do it beforehand. The ones who didn't, like, for instance, there was Vince Russo wanted Miss Elizabeth when she was in WCW to strip down her bra and panties. She told him, "Fuck off, I'm not doing it," and she didn't do it.
Yep.
You know, if they had forced to do it in the ring, then that would have been sexual harassment. You know, so
Yeah,
you know what I mean. If it was agreed upon beforehand, even if he had asked her beforehand, can I do it, and she said no, and then he still did it, that's obviously wrong. You know, so like. You know, there is a borderline there, and I feel sorry for the girl. I think that obviously she's been caught in a situation that not many announcers ever have to, you know, and she's just
yeah,
like, what the fuck do I do, you know? And she has to now go back to work with a lot of other wrestlers who probably will back up Austin Aries, thinking, "I'll just get over it," you know, sort of thing, you know. And she's,
yeah.
you hope now that it doesn't end up leading to her losing her job. Do you think that will be going some? How do you see this panning out?
Oh,
Especially,
I don't see it going as far as as you put it, to like her losing her job. It's difficult, really. Like she could end up going. I mean, there'll be people that will side with her, and there'll be people that will side with Aries and the whole backstage side of things.
yeah,
It would just be a matter of time.
yeah,
Um, I don't. I'd like to think that TNA book sensible enough people or mature enough people that it would essentially be eventually just pushed under the carpet and just something forgotten about, a black page of their history.
yeah.
But don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean the way that it has to be dealt with is obviously internally they need to get Christy Hemme, Austin Aries, and Dixie Carter, whoever, in the same room, and tell them, right, this is what's going to happen. You've done wrong. You
Yeah,
know, this is what you need to do. If you don't do it, you'll go. You can wrestle somewhere else or along these lines. They need to deal with it internally, and I think maybe if they have done it like along those lines and they haven't made it public or anything along those lines, and that would be fine. But it's interesting to see how they go along around with it. And there's a lot. I just found it very odd that a lot of wrestling fans backed him up and said, "I can't believe nothing can be done now." It doesn't matter. You can do that. If they had done that storyline and Chris Hemme had been 100% on board, there wouldn't have been a problem.
yeah,
And I'd sit here with you saying now, well, actually, it's actually pretty good because now people are getting involved in TNA. They've actually managed to break through all this thing, and along those lines, if they're going for these more sort of like in your face storylines or anything along those
yeah,
lines, then that's fine, you know. But as far as we know, and as far as everyone else has been said, as far as what she said on Twitter, it wasn't pre-planned and it was just done off the cuff. In which case, it is unacceptable. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it there.
yeah.
Anyway.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, thanks a lot for watching there today. We're going to try and do some more things. Leave some comments if there is anything that you want us to talk about on LTW in the future. If you like this new sort of format where we're just kind of like, we're not really sort of confined to a topic, we're just kind of randomly going through things, then leave us a like. Yeah, if you go along those lines. But thanks a lot for watching there today, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.